Welcome in. It is day 22, and you are speaking with the Meeples Champion. Now, as I mentioned over the last couple days, we dealt with First Clank, and then we jumped into Dominant Species. My number one favorite game, highly recommended, followed by a game that I didn't hate, but I vastly do not recommend. Said I was going to do a little change up today. So today's game is a little smaller. It's a deck builder, and it's personally one of my favorites, but I won't be recommending this one. Today's game, Hardback. Hardback is a spelling deck builder. The idea of the game is that you have a whole deck of cards with different letters, with different costs, and different victory points. You're going through the game and you're trying to slowly spell out words. You get 5 cards. You have to try to spell out a word with your 5 cards. Now, you don't have to use all 5. You could spell it with 3 or with 4. But every card that you include in the word, you're going to get something for. The card will tell you on it. It might give you some money. It might give you a victory point. There's a bunch of different aspects. And as you get better and better cards, they come in with a lot of extra features. As you do this, you're moving on this board and you're trying to hit 30 victory points. So you go, your opponent goes, back and forth. There's a shared pool of cards to buy. So when you finish up the spelling and you go in there and you decide, okay, now it's time to buy, you're adding to your discard. And then those cards will end up getting shuffled into your deck once you run out of your deck again. Now, you can focus in on some cards that are pure victory points. The problem is that those cards tend to be letters that are not easy to get into sentences. So in order to get them into sentences, you have to go buy the cards that aren't really victory points so that you have more of an option. Otherwise, you might end up pulling a deck of 5 cards into your hand and be like, oh, I've got some Q's and a Z and a W, but where's my vowels? Or where's my easy letters, my R's, and my S's, and my T's? It's really well balanced. If you're a fan of Scrabble, if you're a really good speller, if you enjoy spelling games, then this is great and high recommend. The problem is that most people really can't handle this kind of game because if you do have one legitimately great player, they dominate. In my case, I obviously am doing this YouTube series. I'm also a writer and I write books. I know words. I know how to figure out words. I know how to, I've heard a word before and I may not think of it on a daily basis, but all of a sudden I get some letters and I can find a word in those letters. So whenever I play this game, I decimate my opponents. It's not a fair game. It's not even fun for me because I want to win, but I like to win in a close game. I like to know I'm trying to beat somebody and that it's not just easy. Most of the time I face somebody and, they're either like my wife or my friends who are, yeah, we like games, but this isn't quite our style and we're not the best at this particular type of game. So I beat them because they're not the best spellers. Or I face somebody like, say, my mom, who is an amazing Scrabble player. And if we're playing Scrabble, it could go 50-50 and occasionally she destroys me. But she doesn't know these games. So a deck builder with victory points and with money, it's a bunch of extra thinking that goes beyond her normal thinking. So she doesn't really compete. I love the game. I love the concept of the game. If I can get to the table with somebody who's actually good, I really enjoy the game. But I would never recommend somebody get this for the collection because I think it's a little bit too lopsided unless you find a true match for yourself. And even then, you're talking about a 2-player game. I'd like to play it at 3 or 4. I never have people that can do that. I never have the right group that I can say, let's get 4 people and put this game to the table. It's not going to happen. It's just a game that doesn't quite meld with those I know. Now, maybe some of you out there are from groups that this game's a perfect meld for. And I'm not saying don't buy the game. I'm saying know your groups. Know your friends, know your gaming friends, know your family. Understand between the concept of making words and the concept of newer games with aspects that don't mash up quite the same as like a game like Scrabble. Understand if it does work with them. Can you find somebody who can compete with you on both of these levels? Can you compete on both of these levels? Or are you going to find yourself saying, I love a deck builder, but like I'm not the best speller. I'm a great speller, but I'm not the best with a mechanic of deck building or a mechanic of understanding victory points. You have to find that mesh. And I just don't think that there's enough groups out there that this really mashes up with. Me personally, This game reaches usually just into my top 100. I'll have to do a redraft and see where it ends up when I get to the end of this year, but I just can't think it would make it into my top 200 for a recommend. It might for me personally as a like, but not as a recommend. And there is a major difference. So, this has been Hardback, and I, the Meeples champion, have been happy to bring it to you. I'll be checking in with you again tomorrow on day 23. Until then.